Good evening, my fellow citizens of Chicago. Even though so often Chicago must feel like Gotham City given the corruption we're dealing with here every day and witness in our city council, with yet another alderman being indicted by the federal government for taking bribes. I'm Jerry Vasilatos. Welcome to the holiday weekend edition of Chicago Corner. We're doing a little something different tonight. I actually was looking for some hosts to join me tonight, but after the success of our show a few weeks back, where I was flying by the seat of my pants when we had technical difficulties with Jamal Green, and I ended up doing a show solo, I figured this might be a good opportunity to do the same thing again. Give my other associates over at Hardlands Media an opportunity to enjoy the beginning of their holiday weekend, and invite you, the viewers here in Chicago, to join me in the live stream in the comments and participate in the stories and the topics we're going to cover tonight. So I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. Looking forward to fielding a lot of what you guys have to share in the live chat. My cat Oreo just joined me. And do you have something you want to say to everybody here before I throw you off the desk? He's always curious, but unfortunately, I don't want him stepping on the keyboard as I am running the show here. So our first story tonight, unbelievable. Let me bring it up on screen here to share with all of you. Share the screen. Here we go. Unbelievable developments from City Council. Power Mad City Council introduces bill to rename city John Baptiste Point DuSable, Chicago. Bolstered by their success in passing contentious legislation to rename Lakeshore Drive John Baptiste Point DuSable Lakeshore Drive, the aldermen and officials behind the change have announced plans to rename the whole city next, and have challenged anyone who thinks they can try to stop them from changing Chicago's name to John Baptiste Point DuSable, Chicago. Alderman David Moore of the 17th Ward, who took over the effort to rename Lakeshore Drive from former Chicago Mayor Harold Washington, has outright stated that his mission to honor the true founder of Chicago is far from over. This was a huge win for us, said Alderman Moore. We accomplished what we'd started years ago, and we're not stopping here. In addition to honoring Chicago's true founder, this vote represents a major win over Mayor Lightfoot and pisses off racists besides, which is icing on top as far as I'm concerned. We're going to keep naming things after DuSable until it stops feeling good or we run out of things to rename. The long-awaited vote took place last Friday after a tumultuous delayed meeting of the City Council that resulted in 33-15 in favor of the name change, despite opposition from Mayor Lori Lightfoot and aldermen from wards that are, yikes, made majority white. The bill passed and the naming was made official. While some are suggesting these city council members have gone mad with power, others are suggesting that the cosmetic change to the famous expressway doesn't really help anyone in the city. In particular, critics of the change cite the project's price tag, estimated at nearly $800,000, could be better used for other vital city projects like sorely needed infrastructure repair, or more like the settlement of the city's numerous police brutality lawsuits. Does the city council not know there's a ton of potholes on John Baptiste Point DuSable Drive, Lakeshore Drive, and everywhere else in the city? Asked Lizette Williams, 52, a resident of Bronzeville. I'm not saying the council needs to fix redlining tomorrow, but wouldn't it at least honor M. DuSable's memory more to put his name on a sign for a road that doesn't currently give you spinal injuries when you drive too fast on it? It just feels like the city council never gets this fired up about doing, things that actually help people, said Dennis Burnham, 38 of Avondale. I don't know. Maybe this was just an easy win for progress in any form, and I don't understand the political process enough to complain. I'm not saying representation isn't important, he added hastily. Please don't get mad at me. I'll call it whatever you want. The city council, however, remains undaunted by the criticism and is moving forward with its plans to rename more parts of the city in DuSable's name until all is DuSable, according to a leaked memo. If I had my way, you'd get on the Jean Baptiste Point DuSable red line under the John Baptiste Point DuSable Chicago River and take it down to John Baptiste Point DuSable Roosevelt Station. Walk down the John Baptiste Point DuSable sidewalk to your John Baptiste Point DuSable South Loop in your John Baptiste Point DuSable shoes and sit in John Baptiste Point DuSable office chair till it was John Baptiste Point DuSable noon, and you can take a John Baptiste Point DuSable lunch break to eat fucking John Baptiste Point DuSable sandwich, you John Baptiste Point DuSable fucks, concluded Alderman Moore. passing out briefly behind his recently named Jean-Baptiste Point-du-Sable desk. Now, obviously, I could hardly keep a straight face sharing that story. This was brought to us by the Chicago Genius Herald. I don't have the author's name on the article, but I'm going to blame E. Heller for this because she shared it with me. And even though we disagree on the renaming of Lakeshore Drive, I thought it was pretty funny at how emboldened our alder creatures, alder persons are, with the actions that they take in city council. I actually had a chance to watch some of city council today. Again, I want to thank E. Heller for that because he was instrumental in sharing the link with me regarding today's city council meeting, where there was a pretty major gang up on Mayor Lightfoot. And before city council started, I guess citizens are allowed to weigh in and participate in the proceedings before the official meeting begins. So I will share an excerpt from today's city council meeting. I have it up here on Vimeo. Let's see if I can play this and if we can hear this without any major issues.
When I was a grad student, as a TA, I would have to say that at best they would earn a D- for its lack of support and thoughtfulness.
So this, I don't know who this citizen was, but he came on and everybody has 3 minutes to talk at city council before the meeting starts. So I just kind of want to, I've got it queued up to the end of what he was sharing before his time ran out, and the other gentleman who comes on that was clearly, I think, Mayor Lightfoot plant, but we'll get to that later, decided to share his opinions on the glowing job that Mayor Lightfoot's doing. But let me continue with this.
And what has been presented. Facts do matter. As multiple publications have pointed out, including the Sun-Times and the New York Times, violent crime, including all violent crime, not just a couple, has decreased so far in 2021. Our city has experienced an increase in gun violence and shootings. Yes, that is absolutely true. But this is not suddenly a new issue, nor is it fair to focus only on one or two crime metrics to allege a.
Thank you, Mr. Heddy, for your comments. However, your time has expired.
Okay, so this reminded me of this.
Silence! Let this be a reminder to you all that this organization will not tolerate failure.
I'm kind of expecting that next from Mayor Lightfoot, given the press conference she gave after the city council meeting tonight, which I'll also share some excerpts of. But let me continue now with the commentary from one of our citizens at the city council meeting this afternoon. That was, I don't know, he really felt like he was authentic and real in his comments.
Our next speaker is Alan Juris.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to address this council. I've been a resident of this great city for just over 30 years, and I have to say, I've never felt more ashamed or concerned about our future than I am right now. The 2019 election of Mayor Lightfoot came as a breath of fresh air to this city, while the national stage continued to get crazier by the minute.
Can agree with that.
Little did any of us know, our world was soon to be turned upside down by a pandemic simply not known to our country in these modern times. When I think about how Mayor Lightfoot bravely,
whatever, man, you think so? Killing time in the beginning?
I stand in awe. A lesser person would have turned tail and run while pointing and blaming others. But not Lori. Lives were saved through her efforts and collaboration with those that follow the science. I'm sick of hearing about the horrible violence in the city.
Okay, so E. Heller comments, it really sounds like he's reading something Lightfoot wrote for him. I absolutely agree. That last sentence, if you could imagine it said in Lightfoot's voice, you couldn't doubt whether or not this was something prepared.
As if it is something new. No, it is not new. What is new is the rampant bickering, a petty demand for an apology, and finger pointing, as if one person could conceivably be the cause. or for that matter, the solution. The former president made it okay to be stupid and mean.
And if this wasn't prepared by Lightfoot, it must have been prepared by her speechwriter, because you can literally hear her cadence in this guy's statement.
To one another. Today, you are the greatest, and tomorrow, you are worthless and must be shunned and blamed. Let's break that precedent and be the good people I know we are in this city. I don't have an answer for you, but I bring this humble request. Stop acting like a bunch of playground bullies and get busy working with our elected leader to rebuild a better Chicago for all of us. Our mayor has
Our elected queen.
proven to be capable of bringing the right people together to surmount any challenge, no matter how great or small. I beg you.
While breaking all of her campaign promises.
Don't be foolish. Take advantage of her endless wisdom and talents by working together, as each of you have been elected to do so. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Juris, for your comments. Our next,
So at least he didn't get the boot. He didn't get the Mustafa chair of death into the flames. But this leads me to what ended up happening at the city council meeting, because there's all kinds of council wars going on down there. And as E. Heller mentioned earlier, today's special council meeting had to do with CPD. So I watched a lot of the beginning of the city council meeting, and the police superintendent was up there, and it appeared to me originally that what was going on was the police department was there to answer questions, but was also there to reassure the city in regards to preparation for the July 4th weekend, which unfortunately has frequently ended up in very, very high shooting and homicide rates historically. So while the superintendent was there to field questions, it kind of became a gangbang at the end, with all of the aldermen challenging much of what he was presenting, and also challenging the tactics. I'm sorry, not the tactics, challenging the statistics that have been presented by the mayor and by the police department, sharing that crime and shootings are down. In fact, Mayor Lightfoot was questioned about this at her press conference that she had at 5:30 this evening, where she went on to basically, it was kind of like city council had their time to talk, even though she's at city council. I feel she could have said more there, but this was her platform now at 5:30 to go on and talk about the crime stats that she's been challenged on, and the shooting stats and the violence stats that she and the police department claim have gone down, even though there were a lot of aldermen and reporters at this particular press conference that are challenging those numbers presented, claiming that the numbers that are provided by the website, the stats, are actually very different from what they're claiming here. So let me share Mayor Lightfoot at her press conference this evening.
Again, are we satisfied? Because what you're saying is, hey, wait, there was a shooting someplace in our neighborhood. Yeah, there are shootings. But what we're seeing in the data is a year over year, month over month decline, and that is progress. Yes, sir.
Comparing last night's 30-plus shootings to last year, when we had an out-of-control race riot in which almost every member of the city of Chicago was, in fact, a victim, seems to be playing with those numbers just a little bit.
Well,
last night, I think you were on Chicago Tonight, you said that 99.9% of the criticism of you is because you're a black woman. Do you honestly believe that, considering the way the city council, the city council of Chicago is obviously made up of many black women who criticize you? Do you really believe that the criticism of you is 99.9% based on the fact that you're a black woman?
So you said about 15 things, most of which were wrong. So let's deconstruct some of that. We didn't have race riots last summer. That's no. You're wrong, sir. You're wrong. And I know that you have.
So I'm gonna give the mayor some benefit of the doubt here. I don't know that I'd qualify what happened last summer as race riots. It wasn't. I don't think it was blacks and whites fighting each other. I think it was a response to what happened to the George Floyd killing. That much was very, very clear. So I will agree with her here there was violence related to race, related to police violence in race, but it didn't have to do with race riots amongst actual citizens. But I'll let her continue.
You like to be controversial, but no, you do. Sir, are you going to let me answer?
So I'm not sure who this reporter is, but apparently I'm wondering if that was, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I'm wondering if it's a politician here in Illinois that had a radio show. I think his name was, he was dodging his child support, but he was a Republican. And I know I think he still does a radio show here, but you'll understand why I'm speculating if maybe this is who's asking her the question. He's also a big right wing. Joe Walsh. Thank you, E. Heller. Yeah, I'm wondering if it's Joe Walsh, because listen to what she says here.
Sir, you're just going to keep talking like you did the last time. We're allowing you in here. I would like you to follow the same. I would like you to follow the same courtesy rules that every other member of the press does. I know you have political aspirations. I know those political aspirations haven't been fulfilled. You're a failed political candidate over and over again. But what you don't have the right to do is make up facts. We did not have race riots in our city last year. That's just wrong. And again, I'm
no fan of Joe Walsh at all. In fact, I used to troll him on his Facebook wall, given what a horrible, horrible person he was with a lot of the opinions he espoused several years ago. But I have no idea what any of that has to do with the leader of our city glomming onto it to essentially try to create a straw man argument or evade his questions. But I'll let her continue.
That's wrong. And it's incendiary. Now, I know that's what Newsmax likes to do, but I'm not going to let you take liberty with the facts. Not in front of me. You're not going to get away with that. So let's go to the next question.
You're not going to answer my question.
I answered your question. Your question, frankly, was insulting. You said race riots. You said you conflated the fact that there are members of color on the city council, and that somehow I don't have a right to say, as a black woman, as a lesbian, that I don't believe. My belief that some of the criticism is based solely on the basis of my gender and my race. That's my personal.
Mayor Lightfoot won with a majority of white lakeside liberals voting for her. I don't think the color of her skin or her gender or her sexual orientation has anything to do with any of the criticisms she faces, any less than Mayor Emanuel's ethnicity or other horrible behaviors or policies as a neoliberal had to do with criticism against him. These mayors are both promoting and pushing bad policy. They lie. They're questioned. And the moment that you start to hold them accountable is the moment that the thin skin shows and the identity politics come out to try to avoid answering the question.
That's my personal opinion, sir. You don't have a right to criticize my personal opinion. So I think I've answered your question as best I can, and now we're moving on. Yes.
Mayor, as far as the fireworks show tomorrow night,
I'm sorry?
Concerning the fireworks show tomorrow night, any concerns not only about the spread?
So the good news is we have fireworks back tomorrow night. Those were canceled, but actually let me let her continue with sharing with you guys what's going to be happening over the holiday weekend, because fireworks were canceled and people thought there wouldn't be any celebrations. But I will say, I think that the city actually took a responsible position in how they are going to be doing the fireworks show this weekend to celebrate the July 4th weekend.
COVID, but the potential for a shooting when you're attracting these large crowds to the lakefront.
Well, first of all, there are going to be large crowds at the lakefront, regardless. The weather's going to be warm. The city is open. And so that's why we have plans for that. We have significant deployment of resources along the lakefront. We've been working with local aldermen to address those issues, but the planning for 4th of July has been in process for quite some time. We are not going to have a fireworks show that is specifically attracting crowds to a particular location. So that's really important. The fireworks are going to be able to be seen from fairly far north to fairly far south, but we're not having people gather in a particular location. as we would in ordinary circumstances. I'm concerned about shootings every single day. I go to bed thinking about it. I wake up in the morning thinking about it and making sure that we're doing everything we can to keep our communities safe. So we have, I think, a very robust plan. But fundamentally, here's the issue. There are too many guns and too little accountability. But we've got to do what we can to make sure that our communities are, in fact, feeling safe, because there is real safety. And
so a lot of today's city council meeting also was the superintendent talking about police wellness and how the police department is going to be supported this weekend as they patrol the streets. And what struck me about the city council meeting, and maybe this is what triggered a lot of the aldermen to start criticizing the mayor and the police department regarding the crime numbers, was that it was so slanted and tilted towards the police, which we do want the police to be safe, and we want them to be, out of harm's way and not escalating things. But as Mayor Lightfoot here is talking about, we're worried about the guns, we're worried about this, we're worried about that, we're worried about the things that are, contributing to crime. E. Heller had shared something with me earlier, and I'm going to see if I can. E. Heller, why don't you privately message me? Let me know if I can bring you into the stream. But you shared something with me when we were talking earlier today that I thought was really, really insightful. And it had to do with them talking about the aldermen were also asking for more police. Where is it? Sorry, guys, I'm scrolling through here. Oh, yeah, also, Alderman Moore clarified with Superintendent Brown that he is entirely accountable for the actions of the CPD, that Superintendent Brown is. And Superintendent Brown did say he was fully accountable, as if he's not taking any orders from Lightfoot. And it was interesting to see that back and forth, because it makes you wonder if this is something preemptive from Alderman Moore down the line to hold Superintendent Brown accountable. They also talked about the foot pursuit policy. Let's see here. They talked about cash bail. It's actually all on the city council website. I would encourage you guys to go take a look at it. It's 6 hours long. I was listening to it while I was working this afternoon to try to prepare for the show. From Whatever Man, Police Wellness. Police should get paid a ton of money they can afford to pay out of pocket. Where's our wellness? Yeah, with all of the extra money that's going to from the COVID relief that came last year to add to the police budget. So we saw Mayor Lightfoot here, and her temper is flaring. She doesn't like to be questioned, which led to two articles that I found regarding this topic. I don't know. I'd like for people in the live chat to weigh in so we could talk about this. Mayor Lightfoot says criticism of her temperament is about 99% because she's a black woman. And she also punctuated that with because of her gender and because of her sexual orientation. From the Sun-Times. And let me pull this up and read from this screen. I'm sorry, from the Tribune. Mayor Lori Lightfoot said Tuesday night that about 99% of the criticism she receives over her temperament is due to the fact she is a black woman. The mayor made the comment during an interview on WTTW Channel 11 after being asked about questions people have raised over temperament and how she reacts to criticism, as we just saw in the press conference this evening. The mayor has been known to be tough on staff and confrontational with critics, contributing significant staff turnover. When asked how much of the criticism has to do with the fact she's a black woman, Lightfoot said about 99%. Look at my predecessors. Did people say that Richard Daley held tea sessions with people that he disagreed with? Rahm Emanuel was a polite guy who was a uniter? No, Lightfoot said. Women and people of color are always held to a different standard. I understand that. I've known that my whole life. You know what? Did people say Richard Daley and Rahm Emanuel were polite guys? No, they said they were assholes. And they were. They didn't, if you're going to be the mayor or the leader of a city, you should certainly lead with a strong hand, but you shouldn't be an arrogant prick and have the type of thin skin and be confrontational whether it was Daley, whether it was Emanuel, whether it's Lightfoot. Lightfoot has had an opportunity here as our new mayor to set a new standard. And I'm not saying that she should be polite and diplomatic all the time, but whenever there's a matter of accountability, as she's bungled some things this past year, the identity politics always seem to be the card that's thrown out instead of actually answering the questions and talking about the legitimate criticisms. Police, let's see. We're seeing in the live chat here. Lightfoot is laying it on thick. If not black, then lesbian. Yeah. At least a dozen top people have resigned or said they're on their way out since late last year. City hall jobs are difficult even during normal circumstances, and the pressure intensified in the past year with the onset of the coronavirus pandemic, followed by bouts of civil unrest. Some of the departures are part of the natural rhythm within a mayoral term, which Lightfoot alluded to during a spring news conference. Current and former Lightfoot advisors, however, complain that she doesn't take advice and can be difficult to approach. Like her predecessor, Emanuel, Lightfoot is known to be profane and hard-charging with other elected officials, once telling aldermen, "Don't come to me for shit," if they voted against her budget. She can also be tough on her staff. Last May, Lightfoot emailed her chief of staff, her deputy mayor for economic development, and scheduler a photo of ripped up documents. Not too petty. Lightfoot also faced criticism for emailing her scheduler in January with complaints that she doesn't get enough office time. In the note, Lightfoot repeated several sentences, 16 times, to highlight her displeasure over her schedule. This is just like petty. This is like a spoiled brat who expects special criticism, maybe, or special treatment, maybe because she pushes some of those identity buttons. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm looking in the live chat here tonight. Who's joining us here? We've got Gamer for Life, Where Pilgrim, Miguel H, Whatever Man, Unknown Space Pioneer. I like that. Jerkfoot. I'm calling her Mayor Lightweight myself. Miguel H says, haha, yeah, she's playing all the possible cards she can. And E. Heller says, I'm here on mic if you need me, but you're doing great. Actually, E. Heller, I'm going to bring you in. I'd love to have, and I also, down in the, where are we? Down in the comments, my email address, jerry@chicagocorner.tv is there. If any of you have a camera and are interested in joining us in the conversation tonight, me and E. Heller, I can send you a live stream link, StreamYard link, and bring you into the show. But let me add E. Heller here. There you are.
Hey, Jerry, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Welcome.
Thank you. I don't have the cam today.
Okay.
But, if you can hear me, I'm happy to lend an opinion.
Sure. I've spoken enough. Why don't you share I've basically gone over what happened today in City Council and Lightfoot's press conference, and which leads to her claims that she's not being treated as delicately as she thinks she should, given Mayor Daley and Mayor Emanuel's previous histories of abuse against the citizens of Chicago, the press corps, everybody else. What do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty much the typical cop out that you're seeing from Dems all over the country right now. They get any kind of pushback on policy, and all of a sudden you're racist, or you're homophobic, or you're this or you're that. And I'm like, no, we don't like what you're doing because of what you're doing. Has nothing to do with who you are, or how you identify.
I fully agree. I mean, we saw what the mayor pushed through, I think, the city council meeting before this one. And let me also add, in identifying what that was, I hope that you all got out to your liquor stores tonight before 10 o'clock, because it is a July 4th weekend, and we want to celebrate. Is
that at 10 o'clock or a midnight?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's midnight. Yeah. Actually, we do have some extra time. It's at midnight. But your liquor stores will be closed by midnight, and your grocery stores. So let's have a toast to the end of the buying liquor after midnight. It's the weekend. I can drink, and it's a holiday. I don't drink a lot, but I love my Smirnoff Ice, especially at the July 4th weekend. But yeah, I mean, she railroaded that whole policy through with the liquor stores. It's like, what the F's up with that? I think I talked about it with Kira when she was on the show last month. Does this have to do with trying to drive more people to frequent bars to stir up more business, which would be great, but then you've got more people driving home drunk at night as opposed to staying at home and drinking. I don't understand what the logic was.
Yeah, I had a similar theory about maybe someone must have in a back room talked to her about, hey, well, if we close the bars early, maybe people will spend more time, or if we close the liquor stores early, maybe people will spend more time at the bars. But I don't know if there's really a big lobby for the bar patrons. I mean, the restaurant industry might have a little more pull. It's weird because Lightfoot has these ideas in her head that there are certain things that with barely anecdotal evidence that she thinks are causing more trouble, crime, what have you, downtown. And part of that is her thinking because the liquor stores are open too late. I don't know
that there are many liquor stores open downtown as much as they are the residential neighborhoods. I mean, most of what's downtown in the Loop is closed anyway. So this mandate of closing liquor stores at midnight really has more to do with neighborhoods surrounding the city, not preventing crime in the Drawbridge Loop, where she likes to put the bridges up to protect the castle like it's a moat.
Oh yeah, that was actually kind of brought up too during that special session today about protecting the downtown commercial district and the other commercial districts. So it's like you have all these aldermen that are concerned about, they are, they're concerned about protecting their own wards, which is reasonable. Okay.
It is.
But there's this overtone from a large number of the aldermen where it's all about, well, we just don't want, it's more toward commercial space and less toward protecting individual freedoms. It kind of feels like.
Yeah, I agree. I try. So you had, first of all, I didn't realize the city council meetings were streamed, which is great. I thought people can only watch them by going down to City Hall and sitting in the gallery. But I tuned in when I got home today around, I think 2:30. We were chatting on Slack. I was trying to do some show prep and figure out what I wanted to cover tonight, and you shared that link with me. So I did watch as much of it as I could while juggling other things. But I do think that you probably had an opportunity to watch more of the whole meeting than I did.
I watched pretty much most of the first half. And then I was like, I can't watch anymore. My brain hurts.
Yeah. There was a lot of aldermen challenging the police superintendent, although aldermen at the end of the meeting were then talking about how much they supported the police and they wanted more police on the streets, which I'm like, what is the agenda here amongst, I guess maybe the divisions of aldermen that were attending the
let me go over some of the notes I took down.
Please, yes.
Like I had a couple points that I thought was good to make note of there.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know did you know there's 12,000 police officers currently in Chicago? And it sounded like from Superintendent Brown, the Chief Brown, that they're desperate to get more police hired. They feel like they're putting too many officers into overtime for different areas. And I'm like, okay, if you're having like a situation where there's a lot of violence going on in a certain area and you want to commit more officers to that, clearly you've got systems in place to deal with that. But it's like they, and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little caught up in my brain here with how to explain it, because it's like they're aware that there is less desire for people to join the police force. And
they were addressing putting more diversity in the police force. That's another thing that they covered towards the end of I think it went 5.5 hours. I think at around the 4-hour or 5-hour mark, I saw them talking more diversity, which led me to think about the placement of the Boys and Girls Youth Club on the new police and firefighters campus.
Yeah, and if you joined earlier episodes of Chicago Corner, you saw Jerry talking with Jamal Green about that, and the fact that it really seemed like a weirdly timed thing to bring up when Jamal had already brought up his situation with the youth center he's been trying to get going.
Yes, which is meant to train kids in any field that they want to pursue, from coding to piloting, just a wealth of opportunities that Jamal's Majesty All-Stars Youth Center wants to be able to offer kids on the South and West Side. But the city ignores that, doesn't give them the land with that school that they want to use to put the youth center in, and instead presented this proposal to put the Boys and Girls Club on the campus of the Chicago and Fire Training Academies. So
yeah, so this special meeting that they had today actually opens up a little more information and background information, I think, to some of the motivations for them being desperate to get some kind of police training center up and running again.
To get people of color on the force is what it sounds like they want to do, so that they can maybe lessen the criticisms instead of like addressing the problem, the underlying problems of actually investing in the communities instead of spending more money on cops.
Yeah, and whatever man is in the chat room is saying, what is the purpose of more police in Chicago? Well, the aldermen who want that, and obviously the police chief and the mayor who want that, they have varied reasons, but I think the main reason is that they feel like they don't have enough to protect their wards, or enough to cover whatever their version of policing is. Now, not all aldermen have that same perspective. There's a number of aldermen. I think it's mostly the DSA aldermen who want to reimagine policing, for lack of a better term. They want to take a lot of these responsibilities off the police's hands
and reform the police, reform what the police are responsible for by putting more money into the social programs, the safety nets, whether it's mental health clinics, whether it's utilizing a social worker, social workers, and education, certainly.
We know, if some of us who know the recent history of Chicago know that the former mayor Rahm Emanuel closed 50 schools, and he also closed, I think, a bunch of mental health facilities. Did he not?
That was a big uproar when that happened. Yeah.
So just finding a way to restore some of that would go a long way toward helping the city, I think.
Yeah. Oh, completely agree. This is literally the punctuation. Everything we talk about here is that if more money from the city that's not really broke was going to putting back money to the places that they're taking the money from to further fund and build the police department, instead of investing it more in the community that the taxpayers' money is supposed to go towards. Ed, it just seems that it's like Band-Aid solutions without wanting to like roll the sleeves up and do the real work that's going to be required to save our neighborhoods and save our kids from bad choices, because there's no opportunities, education, or training in these communities.
Yeah. We got another question from whatever man in there. This is why not community policing. They did bring that up in the meeting, and they do have community policing. What is it called? CAPS.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't, I'm not an expert on how the police work, so I'm just throwing in what I know. It's Police Chief Brown's, when he talks in this meeting, sounds, except when he's lying about statistics, pretty much sounds like he does want the community to be more involved in dealing with the problems of the city. I quoted, let me see if I can find the quote here. He says, best way to reduce crime is to prevent it from happening in the first place. And I'm like, yes, finally something I agreed with.
I think that's what you told me in Slack. That was the comment that you shared with me before. I thought I should just bring it into the show so you can share your thoughts directly.
And I was like, yes, preventative measures, which pretty much means, all the stuff we were talking about as alternatives to just getting more cops on the street. Because you're going to need some police, some people may disagree with that opinion, to deal with the issues that happen in the city. There are violent issues that were, hopefully police aren't causing some of those. But the ones where they have to deal with, arresting people for actual crimes instead of the imagined ones.
Yeah. Now, in her press conference afterwards, I will give some credit to some of the stuff that Mayor Lightfoot was addressing in regards to what was it, the bracelet or the ankle monitoring program, the electronic monitoring program. She did acknowledge that that program is in place for nonviolent offenders. Makes sense. You don't want to overcrowd the prisons, especially during COVID. But from what I understood, and I don't know if this skews some of the numbers, there are more violent offenders that are being released on the monitoring program that then get their electronic monitors off, get weapons, and are committing crimes. So you've got like a whole other flip side to much of the controversy that was going on with why do they want to limit more. It had to do with the bail, with keeping prisoners and keeping defendants in prison awaiting trials instead of letting them go on electronic monitoring. Did you follow any of that?
Let me see what I wrote down about that. Because I've got my own opinions on that stuff, but I think some of the aldermen were disagreeing with the data that they were reporting. We got, because it started with Alderman King was asking Chief Brown if he thought there was an equitable distribution of officers between the wards, and he pretty much dodged that yes or no question. And then she follows up talking about electronic monitoring, which are monitoring those ankle bracelets. And he said that about 6% had been arrested for a new crime after having been released. And Alderman King's data said 2%. So there was a discrepancy there. And it went on from there where some of the aldermen were challenging the data that Chief Brown and the other officers in the meeting were claiming. And then
Ed, is it fair to assume that from what we're hearing and what we saw today, it sounds like you saw more that the mayor and the police superintendent might be fudging the numbers to keep more as an excuse to keep more people incarcerated on that don't have the bail to get out?
It sounded like that. It was. I mean, I didn't catch much of the mayor's meeting or post meeting conference, but I think she was on the same page as Chief Brown with the anecdotal comments about violence or the people on electronic monitoring committing atrocities or whatever.
Yeah, crimes. Yeah.
Yeah, and and there was somewhere in there where Chief Brown was saying, well, if you had a problem where one person dies, then you gotta deal with that problem. And I'm kind of surprised that nobody brought up, well, the police have killed people. Why aren't you dealing with that problem?
Yeah. Because they're dealing with and they did get into the foot pursuit policy also during the special meeting today. And I think that from what I understood, the aldermen were on the side of the fact that the police aren't doing enough to enforce that new policy. I guess the new policy still leaves too much leeway for the officers to use their judgment as opposed to the police department actually setting a policy that will prevent the type of escalation and tragedies that we saw earlier this year.
Yeah, that was actually one other area where I was agreeing with Chief Brown when he was talking about not wanting his officers to have to make those kind of determinations. He wanted them to have clear guidance on foot pursuits.
Yeah.
And later on in the conversation, one alderman who was very pro-cop was coming on, thinking that that the police have too many regulations, and I was like, I don't know, man.
No, yeah.
I'm like it's like, just
Given what we've seen,
that opinion where people don't like to have too many chefs in the kitchen kind of situation, and I can understand that perspective. But at the same time, if you have police who are going to be running down an alley with gun out in pursuit of somebody who probably would have given up or
surrendered and actually followed the instructions to do so. And let's make it clear in both cases. It was a split-second thing, but it still haunts me when I think of that video. Toledo turned, his arms were up, there was no weapon. The other Alvarez shot in the back. He was running, but I didn't realize that the police had a mandate to shoot people in the back that weren't actually turning and shooting at them and threatening their lives. I mean, Alvarez was on the ground like, why did you shoot me? Oh, by the way, that particular cop who shot Alvarez, I think his name was Officer Solano, he has been relieved of duty after there was an incident, I believe it was near Logan Square, where a road rage incident where he decided to get out of his car.
Oh, it was the same guy.
Yeah, it was the same cop. They relieved him of duty. They investigated it, and they realized this guy's a hothead, which is probably what led to his, judgment shooting Alvarez in the back. Same kind of hot-headed judgment that led him to, while he was off duty, honk at a guy at an intersection. Guy got out of his car, confronted Solano while he was in his car, went back to his car, and Solano's solution was to get out of his car. I don't think he was in uniform, but he had his weapon with him. I'm not sure if he had his uniform or not, but he decided to pull out his weapon to intimidate the guy in front of him who he was honking his horn at. And then he got into his car, and if it weren't for many other motorists that were at that intersection taking video, literally telling Solano, get in your car. What are you pulling your gun out for? Again, it just speaks to my solution. I'm a cop. This is a privilege, but my solution to everything is I got to pull out my gun and threaten and intimidate and escalate. Instead of recognizing your responsibility is a privilege and you should be like working with people and looking to de-escalate. I mean, I know a lot of people would probably call me very idealistic and naive and foolish to say that, but maybe I just have a more idealized, romantic notion of what law enforcement's supposed to be, serving people, not intimidating and threatening and what's the word? Terrorizing them.
Yeah, it was a weird special session to watch. I mean, I was mostly disappointed because really no alderman even brought up the use of force issues that they had during the George Floyd protests.
Right.
And and then just at near the end, the chief, or the end of before they went to break, the chief had brought up George Floyd, but I was like, okay, he's at least aware and acknowledging that change needs to happen. But what is he going to do about it? And what's the city council going to do about it if all they do is decide to just give them more money?
Right. Instead of putting it back where they took it from to prevent this stuff.
And it makes it hard because it sounded like a majority of the aldermen that were speaking today want there to be more police, and their default solution to that is going to be to either fund a police academy and or give more money to the police,
or give more money to companies that are going to start putting drones in the air.
Oh God,
we talked about this Tuesday. I talked about this with Jose on Tuesday's Fear and Loathing in the Windy City. There is an alderman who's all in support of drones patrolling his neighborhoods because apparently the blue light cameras we have on every corner that the police are supposed to look at this camera, see what happened there, follow with another camera somewhere else, right? To see where the perp may have run. I mean, basically, you've got a grid of where all the blue light cameras are. And if the police department and law enforcement has not yet figured in the past 20 plus years since Daley put the blue light camera system in, how to use that to solve crimes, what? A drone suddenly going to be dispatched and automatically know how to follow a perpetrator to crime? I mean, you're talking about technologies that are being introduced to our citizens, to our residents in Chicago, that's supposed to give them a sense of safety. And it very well might in the short term, while obviously there's the potential for absolute civil rights abuse afterwards, after those systems are in place, especially with drones.
Yeah, and
a sense of needing to feel safe.
And we've all seen the sci-fi movies, so we know that the slippery slope of giving the police department drones or robot dogs is probably not a great idea,
right? Especially
since they're probably going to deck them out with who knows what, tranq darts, what have you.
Dirtbag Leftist says RoboCops would be cool and weaponized drones. I hope you're kidding. I mean, I think RoboCops would be cool only if we had someone with the conscience of Peter Weller in our RoboCops, but I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, I mean the technology. I mean this is an outgrowth of what we saw happening with the Patriot Act after the 9/11 attacks, right? The Patriot Act was introduced to make us all feel safe and things were going to be okay, and it's been completely abused and misused to violate people's civil rights that have nothing to do with terrorism.
Yeah, and it's also emboldened Congress to just give tons of money and surplus military equipment to police departments. And it sounds like Hologram Joe is just going to keep doing that too. Yeah, Gropey Joe. Well, it was an interesting afternoon to watch the city council meeting as it ended up provoking Mayor Lightfoot into that press conference we saw at 5:30 that I showed some excerpts from, and also kind of connects with a couple of other stories that I felt are very relevant to what we're seeing here with Lightfoot, her thin skin, and unwillingness to be held accountable for things that everyone has a right to ask her questions about. Now, she talked about how, nobody seemed to complain when Daley and Rahm behaved the way that she does. They did. But this particular article that I'm bringing up right now, that I'm going to quote from, Lightfoot's troubles put her under harsh spotlight as office she holds becomes a shadow of what it was. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Let's hear a little bit from this article to determine that. The mayor of Chicago once was an all-powerful job that made Richard J. Daley a kingmaker, but Lori Lightfoot is losing her absolute control over the schools and perhaps police department. I don't think those are bad things. I think that we do need to have we are going to be getting the Citizens Oversight Board with the police department, I believe, and there's also the question of the elected school board. Rahm Emanuel liked to say there are 5 chief executive jobs in the nation worth holding: president, governor of California, New York, and mayor of New York or Chicago. After his successor's recent losing streak, Emanuel might want to cross mayor of Chicago off that list. At a time when Lori Lightfoot appears most vulnerable to a potential re-election challenge, the once all-powerful job that made Richard J. Daley a kingmaker has or is about to become a shadow of what it was. Chicago's mayor will still wear the jacket for Chicago public schools, but a Chicago teachers union with expanded bargaining rights and a 21-member elected school board, both approved by the Illinois General Assembly over Lightfoot's strenuous objections, will make it more difficult, if not impossible, for the mayor to make the changes voters demand. The same goes for violent crime in the Chicago Police Department. There's no more stalling a civilian oversight board recommended by the Task Force on Police Accountability that Lightfoot co-chaired after the court ordered release of the Laquan McDonald shooting video. Now, this is very interesting because that happened when Lightfoot was not mayor. It happened when Emanuel was mayor. And she co-chaired the court-ordered release of Laquan McDonald shooting video, which has led to the recommendation of a civilian oversight board that she's not all that thrilled about now because it takes more power away from her.
The Civilian Oversight Board is likely to have the final say on police policy and would be empowered to take a vote of no confidence in the police superintendent that would trigger a similar city council vote. The only question is whether Chicago voters will approve a binding referendum giving the Oversight Board even more power. Adding to the mayor's headaches are a tidal wave of police retirements and a firefighter's pension bill that Lightfoot claims will saddle beleaguered Chicago taxpayers with $850 million in potential costs by 2055. Setting the stage for a parade of future property taxes and other headaches. So, we've got pros and cons both ways. I do think that there should be more power in the hands of civilian oversight boards or a elected school board. But when you say we need to do that and take more power away from the mayor, presumably that means you'd be giving more power to your alder persons. And then we've got this shit that happens. How can we trust our alder persons into doing what they're supposed to do with the civilian oversight boards and working with the citizens and the residents when most of them are caught on the take? You've got Burke, you've got Daley, and now Alderman Carrie Austin and her chief of staff indicted, accused of conspiring to take bribes from contractors. That's why I was joking in the beginning of the show, welcome citizens of Gotham. Chicago.
It's the Chicago way.
Yeah, it's Chicago town.
I don't know what to add to this. Yeah, they brought up the pensions. That was the concern they had. They were like, all these cops are going to be retiring, and we've got nobody to replace them. And I'm like, okay, I'm failing to see a problem here. But then I don't know, how deeply tied the police are to the operation of a functioning city like Chicago. What can we do, to reduce the responsibilities of the police force and increase, budgets for all the other social programs and any other things that can support the city so that we don't need to deal with these crime issues or gang flare-ups or what have you. We've got all these things that they could do. And what would happen if we untied some of the aldermen's hands?
Yeah, well, the Chicago Sun-Times article goes on to share an emboldened city council that just handed the mayor her first defeat on a 25-24 vote on the issue that has divided Lightfoot and council members since her inauguration, aldermanic prerogative. If the trend continues, there'll be a period of the mayor being scapegoated for things that they're no longer really responsible for or in charge of. It's going to be very difficult for anybody that is the mayor, given those changes, said Pat O'Connor, a former 40th Ward alderman who served as council floor leader under Emanuel and his predecessor, Richard M. Daley. I don't know that that's an argument for the mayor continuing to be like the king of Chicago or the queen of Chicago. In Chicago, we're used to the mayor being in charge. In a lot of cities throughout the country, the mayor really isn't in charge. They cut ribbons, they put forth ideas, but they don't really perform the job of control. O'Connor pointed to the changed dynamic in Springfield after the departure of two top Chicago Democrats who were among the city's strongest champions, longtime House Speaker Michael Madigan and Senate President John Cullerton. Madigan was forced out by the Commonwealth Edison bribery scandal that triggered the indictment of two close political operatives. We know that story. Yeah. In the past, you could count on Springfield to help the mayor of Chicago. In the past, you could look at people to be supportive of trying to make the streets safer and trying to be supportive of police. And now all of that is turned on its head, O'Connor said. Well, O'Connor sounds like he's more of a, mayor has all the power type of operative. And I disagree with that. But again, then we have this shit happening. The older persons who do have a lot of control in guiding policy, whether they're Burke or Daley, or now Alderman Austin, you've got all the corruption there. Unless we just really rely on the feds to get the swamp creatures out and elect more, hopefully progressive-minded alder people that are there to represent the citizens' interests. But then, I would argue even in that case, it was like the progressive wing of the city council that wasted all this time on Jean-Baptiste Point de Sable, Lakeshore Drive, and all the money that's going to be spent on that instead of, our crumbling infrastructure, which let me take us to that story. This is like our Friday night bitch fest. Maybe that's what we should call it. Check this out. When we talk about where the money is being spent and how it's being wasted, the bridge located near Cicero and Montrose has exposed bars all over the place. I know many other places look like this or worse, but how safe are they once they get to this point? I've seen these all over the north side, especially as I head towards Lakeshore Drive along Hollywood or Bryn Mawr. And you go under any bridge in the city, and that's what they look like. But we've got the money to redo the State Lake Station downtown.
Yeah, that design looked pretty sweet, right?
Yeah, completely redo it. I called it a cosmetic hand job in this Reddit thread, which I had some pushback on, but it is. And then there were people arguing, well, that infrastructure money that's going towards the State Lake Station downtown, that's federal money. So, you can't spend that in neighborhoods that need all these programs you're talking about. Fair enough. What about what we're seeing down there? Our crumbling infrastructure. Is it going to take a bridge in Chicago collapsing the way the condo did in Florida on all of those people who didn't realize the infrastructure of their building had been rotting for years until anybody got around to it? Is it going to take a tragedy in Chicago to suddenly make people realize, oh, maybe we should be putting all this federal infrastructure money towards this? So, again, the older people, their priority was renaming Lakeshore Drive. Their priority is putting more cops on the streets. Which way are we going to go? We're going to take power away from the mayor and give it to the older people who are supposed to do their jobs? Or are we going to be dealing with more of what you're seeing here with the infrastructure in places not getting the money that it needs and this kind of crap? It's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
If you're just joining us, welcome to Jean-Baptiste DuSable Chicago Corner Bitch Fest on Friday, Chicago Corner Channel with Jerry Vasilatos.
Andy Heller.
Yeah.
I don't mean to bitch about all this. Before you go on, let me just say this. Look, I hate carrying on about this stuff and sounding like all I do is complain and I'm negative. But we know what the logical solutions are. We know the path to sanity. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. And this is what we're seeing with putting more money into the police department, not putting money into our infrastructure, not putting money into our communities, taking money out of those things. So, it does drive me a little bit crazy when I have an opportunity and a platform to come on here and share these stories and then, search in the wild for the positive story to end the broadcast on to feel like there's some hope and that it's not all for naught.
I'm getting serious for a second though about what was I talking about? Oh, we were talking about infrastructure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that if it feels to me like a lot of times when they do this performative stuff, like naming Lakeshore Drive to Jean-Baptiste DuSable Lakeshore Drive, that sometimes it's just to get a jab in at the mayor. And I wonder if the aldermen feel less restricted by what the mayor can do, that maybe they would get a little more serious about getting things done for the city. At least I would like to be positive thinking there, into thinking that maybe they would focus a little more on that. I mean, maybe it's just going to take to getting a few more progressives into the city council to throw a little more leverage in there.
Yeah, or replacing the ones that are there that reflect the same kind of fraud squad progressive values that our progressive squad in Congress has been absolutely spineless in demonstrating.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know how much parallel there is there between what Chicago's doing and what they're doing nationally as far as progressives go. I tend to think that, especially if you think just along the lines of the DSA, it feels like Chicago's DSA is a little more responsive to the actual constituents than the national DSA is.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's a little hope there. But
let me interrupt you really quickly. So Do you know, because I don't, which alder people the local DSA may have been responsible for helping campaign for to get into city council, or are we basically waiting for the next wave of elections where DSA is going to have? I mean, I know we're talking about vetting and interviewing candidates on Chicago Corner and Hardlands Media to help people find the right candidates that actually walk the walk and talk the talk instead of just talk the talk and then change their tune once they get in.
Yeah, we'd probably have to have someone from DSA Chicago on and talk to them about who they're looking at and if they're going to be supporting anybody. You've got what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. There's like five people in the DSA in the Chicago City Council right now.
I think Vasquez is one of them.
And I think my alderman is another one.
Okay.
Rosana Sanchez at the 33rd Ward. And
looking it up right now to see if I can. The Democratic Socialist Caucus, okay, in Chicago. And this is, let's see. I'm trying to pull up and see if there's a roster that we can find out. Okay, from Wikipedia. Hopefully this is updated. Okay, Byron Sigjo Lopez.
Yeah,
I like him.
I wasn't sure, but I thought Byron was.
Yeah, no, I like him a lot. I think that he's actually like affecting some decent things and trying to do some good things. Daniel Espada, Jeanette Taylor, Rosana Rodriguez Sanchez, and Carlos Ramirez Rosa. Okay, so I was wrong.
Yeah, Rosa was the other one.
Moore and Vasquez are not DSA progressives. They are probably more neoliberal Democratic Party, phony progressives.
Okay. Well, Byron Cicho Lopez I think he's actually been on an earlier version of Chicago Corner.
He has.
So we could probably ask him to come back if we wanted him.
Absolutely. We will do that. I know that Allie interviewed him, I think, a couple of weeks before I got involved with the network. And I believe that Kit also interviewed him at a protest that took place a couple months, three months ago, I want to say. So we do know we have contact with his office, and it would be fantastic to bring him on and talk about some of this stuff. Yeah. So it says on Wikipedia, this is where my mistake came from. Andre Vasquez was also a member of the caucus when it was unofficially organized in 2019, but was not part of the founding membership in 2021 when those 5 alderpersons I just mentioned joined in 2021.
Yeah, whatever man in the chat room says, ask them if they were forced to vote. Yeah, right? That's funny. For people who aren't aware, the national DSA refused to go through with the forced to vote strategy, even though it's in their basic playbook, and so they were getting called out on that. Whether Chicago DSA got into that fray, I'm not entirely sure. I know they all support Medicare for all. Whether they were individually for forced to vote, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But we could ask them.
I think that's something we're going to need to explore. I want to. Maybe we can close the whole conversation about city council with the resident that opened the meeting. I think I've got his comments queued up. A lot of righteous anger here. If I don't have them queued up properly, I'll find them. But I want to share what opened up the comments from the gallery,
which is limited to a maximum of 30 minutes. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Speakers cannot yield or transfer their time to another.
By the way, this gentleman, Mr. Blakemore, I think he's going to be the first one up.
Oh, yes, this is good. You got to love this, guys.
Yeah. Will be posted and made available for aldermanic review. Our first speaker is Kimbo Ladian.
Oh.
So that's right. Blakemore was not the first.
Okay. Let me jump ahead. At least we've got the counter. We've got the timer that can.
Important young lady who's.
Help us. There we go.
Institutional racism.
Okay, let me.
That's the guy.
Where they are first year, just by enforcing the
law. I'll let it roll into it.
Sure that folks on probation and parole actually are involved in some productive activities, not just going right back to the same lifestyle. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledian, for your comments. Our next speaker is George Blakemore.
You're going to love this, people. Mr. Blakemore? What happened? He's taking his time.
Institutional racism. We, Police Superintendent Brown, Police Department have always been a cesspool. We need to have a joint city council with all the different departments here. Because when Black people not receiving goods, service, jobs, and contracts, you know, in a poor area, neighborhood, they have high crime. But in a rich neighborhood, the middle class, the crime is not high. So reading in the paper by Carrie, Austin, I've said this over and over again about a birth. I said all of you all are criminals. You just haven't been caught. And you may never be caught. This is a cesspool here.
Cesspool.
Yep.
The Hispanic one, the white one, all of you. It is a culture of corruption here with this democratic machine. When you know better, you do better. So people should be lining up here, speaking in this mic.
With pitchforks and torches.
Policemen, it's not your problem alone. Black people, you remember who you are and where you came from. This flag here brought you here as slaves and enslaved you. Those British flags and the American flag and 4th of July. That doesn't apply to us. We are enemy number one to these white people and these Mama Black people. We're enemy number one. When you know better, you do better. I show up to be seen, to be heard, and to sit down, and the ancestors appreciate me. They appreciate me. They sent me to call all of you out. All of you should be indicted for what has transpired in the Black ghetto. New York have more people, but this crime is not like Chicago, and we got 20, well, we got 50 officers. They have about 25, and they're not gonna have all this shooting. It is a culture of institutional racism right here, right here. All of you are responsible for not having.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore, for your comments. However, your time has expired. Our next speaker.
That was like fire. This guy, if everybody went to the public meetings and spoke like this guy,
yep,
and raised holy hell, we'd probably get a lot more done in city council.
I say God bless this guy, Mr. Blakemore, and I'm agnostic. So, no, yeah, I mean, I always tend to like punctuate things with levity, but no, you're absolutely right. If we had more of that at every city council meeting, I wonder if even our press would take note and it would rile the kind of protests and the kind of peaceful protests in the streets that are needed to affect some change. Although I am grateful that the feds are poking more around our city council to find the rotten apples and get them out of there. It just blows me away that Burke and Daley are still even allowed to serve, and now Alderperson Austin, Carrie Austin, will still be allowed to serve. They're asking Mayor Lightfoot at her press conference later in the day if she was going to take Austin off of some councils. I actually didn't listen to the response because I was rushing to get in here to get things going. But yeah, it's let's take Mr. Blackmore's righteous indignation, his fire, with us in our hearts into our July 4th weekend as we bring this special holiday weekend, 4th of July extravaganza of the Chicago Corner Show to a close. I want to thank E. Heller for joining me tonight, and everybody in the live chat. I was able to share your comments. I really like being able to have more conversation with people in the live chat and bring their comments up and talk back and forth, as much as I enjoyed, Ed, you jumping in tonight to join me in the live stream for some commentary. Thank you. What do you got happening this week? And you have any special plans?
I have family inviting me over for barbecue. Obviously,
nice.
I won't be. I'll probably be helping out with the cooking, but I won't be the main cook this time around. But I'm looking forward to the next barbecue that I hold, and you guys are always welcome.
Ed had a barbecue for the Chicago Corner crew, and let me tell you, it was delicious is an understatement at this man's cooking abilities. I know he's a deep dish pizza enthusiast, but he ain't that bad with the ribs either. And I think we got to do that again sometime soon. I wish I had a backyard patio. I could invite everybody over here and we could cook in my backyard, but I don't have the equipment that you have. But yeah, let's do that soon. I'm glad to see we're going to have fireworks tomorrow night and that they're being safely presented. They're not going to be in one location like Navy Pier. Everyone across the city will be able to see them. I'm wondering if they're going to launch them from one of the lakefront cribs that are out beyond the lakefront coastline, within a far enough proximity that everybody from north and south can see them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see exactly where their fireworks barge is going to be located this year.
Oh, so they launched them off of a barge?
Well, I would imagine. But you never know if they have a wide enough space to do the fireworks. They had. What do you think? I don't think they're going to just do it from Navy Pier again, are they? No.
Well, anytime I've gone down to watch fireworks at Navy Pier, I just always assumed that they were launching the fireworks from one of those work areas in the harbor, in between Navy Pier and there's like another lakefront pier before the harbor by Buckingham Fountain. So I don't know. That was just an assumption. But yeah, that makes sense. Maybe they're
North Pier, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a good opportunity for people to get out and enjoy the holiday. It looks like we're going to have really good weather. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing yet. Let's see if I can hook up some friends and maybe go down and watch the fireworks. But I want to encourage everybody out there watching and participating tonight. Whatever you do, be safe. Drink responsibly, please. No drunk driving, as much as you're all having a good time. We want to keep our viewers and our community safe. If it's happening on the streets, you'll hear about it here on Chicago Corner. Have a good weekend, everybody. Happy 4th of July to all. Please like and subscribe, share our show so we can get more viewers. And be safe, Chicago. Have a good night.